Russia is helping Iran target Americans in the Middle East, and China could soon get involved too. We're told by multiple sources that Russia has been providing Iran with intelligence about the locations and movements of American troops, ships, and aircraft, marking Moscow's first known involvement in this war. Now, it's hard to say just how important the Russian intelligence has been to the Iranians, but several Iranian drones have hit locations where U.S. troops have been in recent days, including in Kuwait, where 6 American service members were killed by an Iranian drone on Sunday. China could also be getting ready to help Iran financially and with missile components, according to our sources, but they have been more cautious in their support for the regime.
Do you know if the Russians are supporting Iran with intelligence?
Yes, of course, not only with intelligence. Not only with intelligence. Of course, they share technologies already. They share some drones.
Do you think Russians are sharing missiles?
I don't know. I don't have facts. I'm sharing with you only what I know from my intelligence, and not only from me, from some partners. So, but they will share with them, because Russia is interested in long war without result. The result, they have result each day: money and the shifting focus of the United States on the Middle East from Ukraine. This is what they do.
For the people.
Iranian state media is now claiming that combat units from Russia's Chechen Republic have declared themselves ready to deploy to Iran if the United States launches a ground invasion. According to Press TV, these forces are loyal to Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov and have told Tehran they will fight alongside the Iranian armed forces if US troops move beyond air and missile strikes onto Iranian soil. The reports describe the ongoing US-Israeli war against Iran as a religious war and say the Chechen side is framing any direct intervention as a jihad, a battle of good versus evil in defense of the Islamic Republic.
All right. Shalom, shalom. Keepers of sheep. Brother Shah. Back with another lesson. Lord's will. This video is edifying. All right. Before we begin, I'll let it first start off by giving all praise, all honor, and all glory to the Most High. Yahweh Bahashem. Yahweh Shah Bahashem. Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Shalom. And shalom to the hopeful elect. All right. And today's lesson, I don't have a title, all right, just yet. But Lord willing, it comes to me. And as you can see, today's lesson is inspired, of course, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashmiel Shah. All right, but I want to make a few points off the clips you seen play at the beginning of the video and the post. All right, so I saw this post and it says Russian Chechen combat units just officially declared they will deploy to Iran to fight alongside Iranian forces if the U.S. launches a ground invasion. They claim their support comes as a holy jihad against American power. The conflict is expanding globally. All right. And yeah, man, the Most High is gathering the nations. All right. It says the conflict is expanding globally, meaning everyone is about to, the whole Middle East is about to get involved in this war. All right. We're about to see Joel 3:2. We're about to see Joel 3:2 take place. All right. The Most High is gathering these armies. All right. These nations. So like, you don't get sleepy till you start doing a lesson. But yeah, we're about to see these nations gather in the Middle East. All right. In the valley of Jehoshaphat. All right. And we're about to see World War III. All right. We're about to see the beginning stages of World War III. All right. Actual war, because the U.S. has has sent over like 50,000 troops altogether, maybe like 80, right? 60, 70, I'm not sure. I haven't keeping count, but this thing is heating up. All right, the U.S. military has been sending over more troops. All right, every other week now, so that they see that America is, and we'll grab that real quick. America is moving its army. All right, that Northern Army. All right. To the east. All right. Mosai has to move the Americas first because all right, the Americas are all the way over there on the west, right? So it's Joel 2:20. It says, "But I will remove far off from you the northern army." All right, where is America located? North America. All right, so this is your northern army. It says, "And will drive him into a land barren and desolate." This is talking about the Middle East, all right, specifically the Iranian, Iraq, that area, right? It says, with his face toward the east sea, and his hinder part toward the uttermost sea, and his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he hath done great things, right? You know, telling you that these men going off, all right, being sent off, are not coming back. All right, you know, this was their last time, you know, seeing their families. All right, they're going off and not coming back. Thus saith the Lord. Okay, so and back to this post, man. It says they claim their support comes as a holy jihad against American power. So they're claiming to be doing what? The will of the Heavenly Father, which they are doing the will of the Heavenly Father, right? And I want to grab a precept real quick concerning that, because these men, they don't just wake up, all right, and say that they're gonna, you know, we're gonna do this today, all right. You know, these thoughts, all right, are given to them by the Heavenly Father, all right. Man's goings or the Lord, how can a man then understand his own way? Roughly paraphrasing, but real quick, in Proverbs 21:1, it says, "The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, as the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will." All right, so ultimately the Lord controls what, you know, Putin thinks, all right, what Trump thinks and feels, all right, with the decisions they make. Okay, so this is not no coincidence that and of course Russia has been planning, you know, always been alongside, you know, Iran. Russia's always been alongside Iran, you know, aiding them along the way, all right, you know, and it's no secret that America, all right, aids the state of Israel. Okay, so this is just you know, a way for the gathering of the nations again. All right, and some of these nations, they understand that, man. They understand who controls the world, and that's the wicked. All right, they understand that they're doing the bidding and the will of the Heavenly Father ultimately. Okay, I want to grab some Ezekiel real quick, because this is the prophecy that we're seeing come to pass. It's Ezekiel 38 and 39. No, 38 and 1, Salakia. It says, "And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man," right? It says, "And the word came unto me, and the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog in the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him." All right, it's talking about Russia. It says in that word Gog ultimately goes into in the Hebrew, it goes into mountain. All right, meaning like a mighty government. All right, so we know that Esau has set up his governments. All right, and ultimately these are the superpowers. All right, of this current world. Okay, you have Russia, of course. All right, China. All right, of of course, America. Okay, but we're seeing America's power diminish. All right, we're seeing America become weak. Right. It says, and say, thus saith the Lord, Yahweh Bashem Yahushua Bashem Kakadash, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. It says, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring forth all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. All right, it says, I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. All right, meaning, because, Russia had, ultimately they fell dealing with with the Soviet or whatever. They fell. All right. And, of course, America, took up their power. All right. That they stood up and, took the lead in this, cause it's all, a race to, see who can be the superpower. All right. Who has the biggest army, the biggest military, the biggest nukes. All right. The most intelligence. All right. The most powerful weapons, things of that nature. Right. So, of course, Russia failed. They failed with that. Right. And America took the lead. But now the Most High, he's putting Russia back into the, he's putting them back into the game. It's like, you put somebody on the bench. All right, you bench them for a while, you put them back in the game. All right, and they're ready to play. All right, so now Russia's ready to play ball. All right, so the Lord has put him, all right, in a position to ultimately he's being used, all right, to destroy America. All right, do the bidding of the Lord again. Okay. It says, verse 5, Persia. All right, Persia is modern day Iran. All right, Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya, with them, all of them, with shield and helmet. All right, so, everybody's, that's what you see. Everybody's preparing for what? World War III. All right, Russia supplying Iran. All right, and other allies. All right, with what? Intelligence. All right, military. All right, they're now supplying them with troops. All right. Yeah, man. I see missiles, ICBM missiles, nukes, because, that was Trump's whole agenda. All right. His whole narrative to stop Iran from, obtaining nukes. Right. So, of course, Russia has and will supply them with the needs to fight this war. Right. It says 6, Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah, all right, of the north quarters, and all his bands and many people with thee. Verse 7 says, be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. All right, that's what you see in Russia do. Russia has been a guard, all right, unto Iran. All right, they see the U.S. creeping in. All right, so now it's time for them to take action. All right, that they can only allow so much to, to happen. All right, till they step in with themselves. All right, and they're hoping that America plans the invasion. All right, so they can step in and use that muscle. Right. So ultimately it's all the will of the Heavenly Father, and the Lord can and will speed this thing up. Right. Let's grab we'll get Isaiah 14:10 real quick. It says it says, all they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become as weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and thy vows and the noise of thy vows, and the worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. All right, meaning, these other nations are mocking America like, okay, we're not capable to, we're not able to fight with you. We're able to go back and forth and stand with you. All right, and they're saying, hey, are thou become weak as we? All right, these other nations, they consider themselves strong now. Why? Because they're backed by what? Backed by Russia, China. All right, Russia's backing Iran, China's backing Russia. Okay, so it's an even playing field. All right, and Most High is making this thing a good fight. All right, a good competition. All right, it's all sport, right? So we will see this thing escalate. All right, soon. Okay, this is Joel 3:2. All right, and this is the end all be all for these nations. It says, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. All right, that word Jehoshaphat, I believe that goes into Yahweh's judgment, right? And yeah, man, we're about to see the judgment of the Heavenly Father on the nations, right? So we seen what he did with the nation of Israel. Now we're about to see, him do the same thing unto the other nations, begin with Esau, Edom, so-called white man, right? So with that, all right, I pray that this lesson was edifying. Again, until next time, I'd like to close out by giving all praise, all honor, and all glory to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rekah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, Shalom, and Shalom to the elect.